Welcome back to Inventing Construction. In today's episode, we have 3 very interesting guests.
Experts, maybe?
Yes, my name is Laurits Boile. But before these guys will introduce themselves, I will just introduce the topics of today. So this one is a very interesting one. We'll be discussing how content marketing will change the construction industry. And before we do that, we'll discuss what is the traditional way of marketing and branding, and exactly what is content marketing, and how to get started with content marketing and what it might do for your business and the industry. And to my right, we have Dr. Podcast, also known as Jakob Sloth Linneberg. And I know what you're thinking. It's a Danish word.
Yeah.
Slot means castle in Danish. So his name is...
Not the slot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No. Yeah, not the slot, but...
No.
Mr. Castle Podcast.
Yeah.
Jakob Castle Linneberg.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in front of me, we have the one and only, the actual Ross Griffin.
Yeah.
So,
Hi, guys. We're changing up today a little bit just to see how it goes, because these guys are usually behind the camera and behind the sound. So maybe it's an opportunity to bring them to the front to see and understand why exactly we're doing this at all and what the value is. You know, this is going to be nice.
Yeah. And you'll explain that
super
part.
Interesting. As a tongue-in-cheek, it was a dig at me, by the way. You know, super interesting. I seem to say that at the beginning of every podcast because they are super interesting.
Yeah, that's
So maybe you should start introducing yourself, Laurits.
Yes.
Briefly.
Very briefly. Yeah. Okay, so my name is Laurits Boile, and I work with video and content marketing. And I've been working with Ross for 5
6
years.
7 nearly, actually. Yeah.
No, I don't think it's
The first video we did was in 2019.
19. Yeah.
That's when we just started Cosmos then. Okay, 6 years, so super.
Yeah.
Feels like a lifetime, Laurits. Feels like a lifetime.
Yeah, you've grown older.
Yeah, honeymoon period is over, you know.
Now it's just business.
Now it's just business. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so that's what I do, and I've been working with Cosmos for that many years, and we've been doing a podcast for 2 years.
No, it's 3 years.
3 years.
3 years. Yeah.
Mr.
And
Castle.
Mr. Castle.
I'm Jacob, as you said, and I work with podcasts helping companies, getting success with their podcast. So we're still working on this one. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still working on it.
We're still working on it.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. Yeah, exactly. But I've been doing that for 5 years now, and I've been working with you guys for 3, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So that was very brief. My company is called Ugli Productions. You can write if you want the story.
The link will be below.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a very good story, so let's not dig into it here.
Yeah.
But now it's regarding what we're going to talk about. Could you explain to us what is the traditional way of marketing and branding?
Is that just in the construction industry, or is it across any industry? It doesn't really matter.
Well, let's say it's probably in the construction industry, the status quo of how we do content and branding and marketing or whatever. So the old traditional way of marketing is that old-fashioned. This is what we do. This is what we sell.
This is what we're good at.
This is what we're good at.
Yeah.
So it's like the opposite of receiver-oriented communication. That's basically it. So it's sales promotion. That would be in other industries. You can get 20% off this week only.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff, and TV commercials and print. It's also a traditional one. Flyers and everything, and conferences and booths and all that. Not to say that you shouldn't be doing that, but
no.
It's sort of the traditional way. And today we would like to discuss content marketing, which is, I think, something that people in the industry probably don't even know what is. But like in the way we work with things in the industry we work in, that's, how old do you think it is, that term? 20 years? 10 years?
It's still something new.
Yeah. You think?
Yeah.
It was coined 20 years ago, I guess.
Yeah,
Ever since, I guess, social media started, I suppose. And
we still have a job explaining why we should do content marketing, which is very sad. We also, regarding brand, that was not really branding you were talking about there either. That was just marketing and sales.
Yeah.
No one, or very few, are actually working with, showing who they are.
Yeah.
the persons behind
Yeah.
the company, who they wanted to be regarded as, or do they have a mission they fight for, or it's just sales.
Actually, that's an interesting point. If you jump on a company's website and you look at people, often you have these traditional websites that just show the CEO, the directors, and that's it. But the company could be 50 people strong. Yeah. And so what are the other 47 people? Who are they? Yeah. Because they're the people that you'll actually be working with. And I often find it very refreshing in Denmark when you go on a Danish website, maybe it's an architectural firm or an engineering firm, and it's the people are done in alphabetical order. So you need to search for the CEO or the owner or the directors going, it's Thomas. Let's go to T. There's Thomas there. Yeah. Okay, you can click to see the director and the management and all that. But the website is set up and the company is set up in the sense that we're a team, and actually everybody has a value to show there. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes the CEO is actually at the bottom.
At the bottom.
Scroll all the way down.
Yeah. I really like that.
I don't really know. There is something going on with that, trying to activate the employees in the marketing, showing the customers who are working behind the projects and so on. I really think that's the way to go. Yeah, that's branding.
And it's an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
just having an employee write a few things about them and what could be interesting to have on a page on the website. Especially in the construction industry, when you work in projects like you do, there's you might, once a project get going, you might not actually see the CEO very much because it's a project director or whatever working like a consultant. So
you can see some of the big corporates jumping on that, having the interviews with their employees. Who are they? What department are they from? Especially when there's a hiring boom within the organization, you'll often get that. I'm Anne or I'm Meta. I'm in engineering, and this is my background. Yeah. And it's a very nice way to engage the personal side of the organizations for sure. And it's changing, I think, but our industry is super slow. I think I heard, I was listening to a podcast there, a short on LinkedIn actually, and the lady was mentioning, actually in the construction industry, a lot of sales is done in a very traditional way. I know Laurits, I know Jakob, they're developers, I'm a consultant. I will go and play golf with you guys. I will go for beers, or we'll go watch some sport, and you have a project coming up and you ring Ross. It's a very, very traditional, face-to-face, local type industry. And that's how we do a lot of our business. A municipality has a tender coming out. It's an open tender, but they already know the 7 contractors that they're definitely going to invite, and then open it up to whoever else is interested.
Yeah. And that's a good point, because research shows that companies, when they, dive into a new field or they want to do something new in their marketing and branding, they usually have this list of companies they already want to work with because they're researching much more than they did in the past. So they go on LinkedIn, then go on your website, and if your website is all sales, but the website is not answering the question they have, they will just, no, I'll leave it here. But when you know that companies have a list of people they already want to reach out to when they want help with this problem they have, why aren't you working more, being top of mind with your target group? I can't really understand it, but that's branding. Marketing is like inviting to a party and you have
Postfest.
And you have to explain why people should come to the party. We have a big scene. We have free drink. And branding is like, hey, come to this party, and people already know we have to go to that party because it's always awesome.
I like that one.
And that's really the point of content marketing, which we'll explain in a few minutes, that you have to get on that list somehow. And that's what social media is really for, if you do it right.
And we often think, if we relate back to kind of history of that marketing piece, that you need big budgets, you need to spend a lot because you need to get the exposure. You want, I always think it as the Super Bowl. You want that advertisement on that Super Bowl in the US. That's what we need to be spending in order to to make exposure, to make it great. But the reality of it is different.
Yeah,
I had a chat with Elian Kong in Copenhagen about Rathhuspladsen in the main square in Copenhagen, and the DR building that's all lit up with all the brands on it. And I was going, we should get Cosmos on that. I started looking into it going, yeah, why not? Just put it there, you know? And they kind of started reeling me in a little bit, going, maybe we can spend our money a little better than putting a big sign on the side of the building in the middle of Rathhuspladsen.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
How much for removing the other logos and just having Cosmos?
Just one. Yeah.
Should we dive into content marketing?
Yeah.
What is it, Laurits?
What is content marketing?
Yeah, I just asked you that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to repeat every question.
Okay, so I like to think of it as a philosophy, a content marketing philosophy. It's just, as I said,
Marcus Aurelius talked all about it as well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, famous Roman emperor. Yeah. Our favorite one.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, so at the introduction, I talked about how it's receiver-oriented communication all the way. So that just means every time you do any type of branding, marketing, videos, podcasts, outreach, invitation to your events or whatever, it's receiver-oriented communication in a way that you always focus on the value for the receiver of the information. What do they get out of watching this video? What do they get out of listening to this podcast? Instead of, this is my opportunity to tell what my company can do and what we're good at all the way. That is that's like the content marketing philosophy.
You find that a lot in conferences and stuff where companies are given the opportunity to speak, and what they do is get into sales mode about this is what we do, this is the service we can offer, this is where we're great. But where you get the most engagement is where companies come in and don't talk about themselves. They actually talk about a problem that they solved or a project they worked on that was challenging, that they overcame. Whatever the theme of the conference or the stage you're on, that storyline represents. And often you get way more engagement than...
Yeah, because this is how we overcame these challenges. Yeah. This is how we did it, and this is how you can do it. Yeah. In the end, you're doing the exact same thing as just trying to sell yourself. Yeah.
It's indirectly.
It's indirectly, but it's like
there's a value.
Yeah, and an imprint in people's head a lot better than the other way around.
Yeah. It's about having that message or that story. It's, again, a lot of the sessions we have in the podcast are people coming in telling their story, not necessarily selling their brand. It's about their journey and what they've been on and so on, and people can relate to that because everybody wants to understand the journey people have been on, and has it been as difficult as the journey I've been on, or is it much better? Or what kind of high life are you guys living? Rock and roll stars just traveling around the world doing podcast and video content. It's
I heard Matthew McConaughey on a podcast. He's Australian, isn't he? He's Australian.
He's from Texas.
Yeah, he's from Texas. Yeah. But I heard Matthew McConaughey on a podcast, and apparently he works with marketing in somewhere of some SaaS company. Yeah. And he said that his job was to make all these futures, likable and understandable, using storytelling. Yeah. And they were like, Matthew, how do you do this? And it was just basics for him. And he was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But my job is to simplify our message, our futures, so those out in the real world really understands it. And that's the problem most companies fall into, we have to describe all our futures. Oh, look at this. We have this or this and this and this and this HT1000 processor server or something like that. And people don't care. No. It's like the Steve Jobs thing. It's the iPod is not some technicality.
10,000 songs in a pocket or whatever it was. Yeah.
Very easily described.
Simple, very simple messaging. Yeah. I can reflect on that and relate to it a little. We were writing your script for your website. What's your services? We started writing script. Suddenly we were 7 pages in on what cost management is, and we went, "Oh Jesus, no one's going to read that crap." No. I'm not even going to read it. No. Okay, we need to really figure out how we simplify what it is that this is, like cost management as a service. So we're going, okay, bullet points, but it's so boring. Bullet points. Yes, we do this and this, and like who cares? So we went, okay, how do we visualize it? Let's do animations of sort on it, maybe, and maybe let's not describe it. Let's just talk about it. So we ended up doing these animations rather than this script of what the service is. And I found it much more engaging watching the nice visuals going, wow, I still don't know what cost management is, but nevertheless, I enjoyed watching the video at least rather than the script. And so I can relate to that because you come from the technical background.
And you're proud. And you're proud of the technical parts of your job.
You believe you need to explain it so people understand it, you know?
Your knowledge is blinding you.
From how you need 20 years at this.
If you understand this future, it's going to change your world. And then like, but we don't understand it. No.
The first line in, I'm bored. Next.
Yeah, that's a good example because like things on your website is also content in that sense.
Yeah.
But like a good example of it would be if you, as a construction company, you have a big project and you want to make some sort of footage video, like a case study of this project.
Yeah.
This is how it went and these are the results we made. Yeah. The way you communicate that is where you go from the traditional method to the content marketing philosophy. Because in the traditional way, you just be like, this is what we did. We did. These are the results. Hey. Yeah. But if you do the different approach, you would be like, these are the 3 major issues we had on this project, and this is how we avoided them. Yeah. Or this is how we did a project with 30 different buildings, 156 unfederated models.
Yada,
yada.
One of ours. Link in the comments below. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
And people will engage with the latter one.
But the challenge within our industry, though, is people don't like to talk openly about projects, the problems they're having on projects outwardly. Everybody wants to the red ribbon cutting and the gold scissors and the digging of the soil that in Danish is it spade stick, I think it's in Danish, that little mini party that happens. Everybody wants that. They want the bright lights, and no one talks about the challenges that we're really having, the supply chain issues, the lack of control on the project because we didn't implement this process and so we're not really learning in our industry. We're not really learning from the mistakes and challenges as people because we're not comfortable talking about them.
Why do you think that is?
I think there's 2 sides to it. I think there's a cultural issue in it. I think in the industry in projects we don't want to talk about problems because the problems are then reflected on us as managers or as project leads or as clients and going, if we talk about them, they're real. But if we talk about them, they're real, yes, but then maybe we can solve them.
Yeah.
So let's not talk about the problems, let's ignore it. And certainly don't talk about the problems outside of this room.
Yeah.
You're all under an NDA, non-disclosure agreement here, That legally you're obliged to not talk about it. But yet, and so some of the biggest clients, some of the biggest investors are the worst at this. They are so protective of their brand that they don't want to talk about the problems that they're having and try and influence improvement in the marketplace. And I challenge any big investor out there, big corporate brand, you can look at yourselves at this and see, like, are you really talking about the challenges you're having, or is it all just rainbows and sunshine and rainbows,
I'm not that into the construction industry like you are, of course, but usually talking about your obstacles and problems and how you solve them is helping you building trust.
Yeah.
The target group see you as more relatable because you dare to talk about your problems, but it's not that way in the construction industry.
I have never, and again, I'd love to hear from people listening into this or watching it on the video. If you have videos you've seen on YouTube, on LinkedIn, that actually big corporates are talking about the challenges that they're having around their projects, commercially, quality, time, design, or even any of the consultancies, absolutely put it in the link, because I've never heard anybody speak about this type of stuff.
No,
in the entire industry, we're super closed, super cautious, super reserved. We believe that it'll portray negatively on our brand, so we only talk about. You can see it on LinkedIn. We just won this project. Everybody goes, way.
Yeah.
Then what happened? So you delivered a project. It was 3 months late and it was 25% over budget. You never hear about that. But what you do see is the client and the big corporate cutting the ribbon going, the project's now open. Look at this amazing building. Yeah. No one talks about the fact that it's been 6 months late and it's been 50% over budget.
Yeah.
We ignore that. Elephant in the room. No one talk about it.
But that's so far of how I'm thinking, because if you can show on LinkedIn that you can manage these obstacles, if you can solve these problems, future clients would say future clients won't have any expectation that this goes with no difficulties at all. There will be obstacles. Yeah. So if you are someone showing on LinkedIn that, hey, I can solve these problems. Well, we solve this problem like this, or we're in this problem right now, but we have this plan. If you're just being transparent,
and
you should build more
actually
trust.
Don't have to be specific.
Yeah,
you can do it without being like on this project with this client, this amount of money, blah blah blah.
It could be anonymized.
Yeah,
but something you mentioned there actually is after triggering something in my mind. You said we don't go into projects expecting it to run, efficiently and smoothly. We are going into projects expecting to have problems, but the reality is actually the opposite. We don't go in there expecting to have problems. We go in there with blinkers on, and projects are set up in the same way that they have been set up previously. And the last 10 projects that I've worked on have been this exact same way that we've set them up. Yeah. But this one's going to be different. Why? Because it is. Just because. It's just because. And you're kind of going, Jesus, really? Come on now. We really need to talk about this, because you can set the project up in the same way of your other project, because that failed. Yeah. We need to be more structured, more transparent, more open, more organized, so that we're maybe more digitized, so that we are looking at, well, what are the risks for us and how are we going to mitigate them?
And I would imagine that if you're being transparent about your problems and obstacles, it would be easier to work with existing client as well, because they know, hey, he's honest, or he or she is honest, he or she is transparent. They will solve this obstacle. I know I'm being naive right now.
No, but I like it. I like it because when you look into it outwardly into the industry and you're not in the industry, you think, well, it's just construction. What's the problem? But often clients don't want to be told the truth, because the truth means that they'll have to make decisions. And so it's better to be left with no decision, and we're in this kind of mess, rather than having to take a decision that might or might not work out. Yeah. So we have this kind of analogy that we talk about. You give a client 5 options. Each option has a time related to it. So, for example, you have one day, you have 5 options, but after day 1, number 5 is gone. That option no longer exists. After 2 days, option 4 is gone. After 1 week, option 3 is gone. After 2 weeks, option 4 is gone. So after 3 weeks, you've only one option. Yeah. So clients say, well, I had no choice. I had to go in this direction because this is the only choice I had in front of me. What they didn't realize is that actually at the beginning you had 5 options, but you didn't take the decision because you were too scared to take the decision because of the potential outcome. So you stepped back from it. And as time went on, the options available to you fell away. And suddenly, yes, you're backed into a corner and now you've no choice. Yeah. But that's because you made no option or made no decision. Yeah. And that's a big challenge in the industry. So when we go and we're totally transparent with our clients, this is your problem. You need to solve this issue. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. And that might mean you need to fire this person. They're not capable of delivering the project like this. You need to get rid of them. And people are going, whoa, I'm going, this your weakest link. You need to get rid of them and find someone suitable to deliver this project, or you're going to be in this mess. Like that's very difficult for people to hear. But that's the type of consultancy you need to be giving, because isn't that why you're in the room? Isn't that why you're getting paid?
When we started the podcast, apparently there was Paul Hemming's podcast as well, but we didn't. And a few others as well. But you invite guests and he invite guests. Yeah. And when we hear you talk, you're being transparent. You're being honest. It's not this red carpet, thinking that everything is going smoothly.
We want the editing rights.
Yeah. What he had. Someone told him that they want the editing rights. Yeah, but
some corporate. Yeah.
But do you see a movement in being more honest and transparent?
But that's the smaller agile companies
Correct.
Are able to jump on this new way of doing things.
One of the reasons we started Cosmos was because of this. Yeah. I was speaking to newspapers and I was told you can't do that. And I went, why not? Well, you cannot speak about the project in that way. I said, but the project's going to shit. Why can't we speak about it? Because the impact that's going to have on... And so suddenly from the top down we're saying, you can't do this. Control the narrative. I went, excuse my language, but fuck that. I'm out. I want to be able to speak openly about this, because otherwise we're never going to be able to change the industry. The industry will just continue in this vacuum of fakeness, if you like,
Yeah.
And this is why you have this challenge around branding and value-driven content and so on in that sense, because we really do not want to talk about it.
No, and like the easiest way to just be seen and have a brand is just to speak your own mind.
Yeah.
Because that's you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a personal brand in the end. Like, there's no incredible strategy or anything. This new commercial is just everyone's gonna see it. It's just you speaking your mind.
Yeah. You're not building brand if you're micromanaging the communication.
No.
But a lot of people interested in building their own brand wouldn't be allowed to build their own brand because of the companies that they work for.
Yeah.
They would not be allowed to speak openly and freely because of the association they have with those organizations. Even if the narrative is positive or negative, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It might reflect poorly on the bigger brand.
Because the easiest thing is still to do nothing and say nothing.
Yeah.
But what branding can help you with in the industry, you talked a lot about in previous episodes that it's going to get hard to attract talents in the construction industry.
Yeah.
But if you're a brand and you dare to share your opinions, that could be a way of attracting, because you're being honest, you're being transparent, and people, especially younger, wants to work with people being more honest, or companies being more honest.
Especially for the SMEs, the small to medium enterprises, or the SMVia in Denmark.
Yeah.
It's going to be very important for them to be outspoken, to attract, because coming out of university, all you'll see in university is the big brand names, the big architects, the big engineers, the big contractors, the big clients, the big investors.
Yeah.
It's just the big brands. Coming out of university, that's who you want to work for. Because that's what you see. You think working for these organizations, no, we can't name any of them, but working for the organizations where you want to be.
Yeah.
And in the reality is that it's actually the smaller organizations that they're much more agile, and the opportunities within those organizations are much more, because what you're doing is you're helping a company to scale their business, to grow their business.
Yeah.
So you might go into a company of 20, but in their strategy is to be double that in 5 years, triple that in whatever. So your opportunity, if you understand the business well enough, is to absolute escalate your career through that with that business.
Yeah. But we also heard one of your guests, I think it was Andrew, talking about that they were selling the solution to a large company, and the CEO was like, "Nah, I have like 3 years left. I don't want to change anything." Yeah. And he said, Andrew
put a
said,
link in the podcast below. Yeah.
And Andrew said, "You're going to lose talents because of that.
Yeah,
you have
That's
to."
the reality.
Yeah.
And I think that what you see is that people that have, and I'm absolutely generalizing, and we're going to get a lot of comments on that about this, but what you'll see is that people that have an ambition to make change generally get lost in the large corporate organizations because of the bureaucracy. They get disillusioned a little bit, because to make change takes so long, and so in an SME, in a small to medium enterprise, the agility becomes an advantage. That's actually the superpower, is the agility. The ability to move quickly and make decisions quickly is the superpower of the SME.
Yeah.
The big corporates, their superpower is their brand. The brand shields everything around them. It gets them the opportunities, it gets them the business. But for the SME, you can change the direction of your business next week, tomorrow. Yeah. Actually, when you walk out of the podcast, let's do something different. Yeah. This is the reality. That's our superpower.
Yeah.
And that's what makes that part of it exciting then. So when we talk about branding and exposure and all of that, it's kind of, the gloves are off. Everything is on the table. What are we going to do to make this different?
Do you think the industry is moving towards this new way of thinking?
When we first started, and again on a previous podcast with Paul Hemming from On the Build, I think he started back in 2020. We did our first podcast 3 years ago. We're seeing more and more social media posts within the construction industry now. There's quite a lot of podcasts that are within that kind of 5-year, 3-year mark across the industry. I'm talking globally now, just not in Denmark or in the UK or in Ireland or in Europe, but globally. But what you're seeing more is the SMEs approach to it. You're getting people coming out and talking about, actually, this is a problem. We need to solve this. This is actually the solution. We implemented it. I wonder what you guys externally think about that. And then you're getting a lot of, I guess, your profession also entering this industry, looking in from outside, going, wow, there's a whole opportunity for you guys within this industry, looking in, going, even if 10% of this industry takes this up, it's going to be huge. Like the Danish construction industry is a 42 billion or 43 billion euro industry. Like, you're looking in at that going, I just want a small piece of that. You know, what does that mean for me as a small business? You know, it's dramatically life changing, I would say. Yeah. So I can see that I noticed in social media over the last 1.5 years, maybe 1.5 years, I think. Yeah, not longer than that. That it's and especially the end of last year and the beginning of this year, I seem to see more and more of this coming out, which is great. You know. Yeah.
So small companies, SMEs, are largely focusing more on building brand.
Yeah. The bigger corporates are more looking at the people that are internally in their organization. They're trying to attract talent because the numbers that they need to attract are huge because of the change in resource that they have on a weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. So their focus is absolutely on how do we get the people in here to make sure we get because the projects are coming to them, you know, because of their brand. Whereas the SME is slightly different. They need to build a brand. They need to sell themselves to get the projects. And the number of people that they need isn't in the same sphere as some of these big corporates. You know, you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 a month instead of 50, 60, 100 a month, you know, for some of the bigger companies. Like, whoa, imagine having to attract 100 people a month into the business. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
If we think of Novo Nordisk is a big, huge pharmaceutical, was it 10,000 that they've employed in the last 1.5 years? Or is it 16,000? I read something on LinkedIn today, it was like 16,000 that they've employed in the last 2 years. 16,000 people? Like, I wouldn't like to be looking for 16,000 people.
But,
you know, maybe go to United Match and you know, find them there.
Just give out flyers.
Yeah.
In terms of going back to this content marketing thing.
Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it all links together with this because I think the construction industry specifically also has a huge need for this open collaboration to actually change things. Yeah. And this content marketing philosophy sort of links up with this quite nicely. Yeah. But also with you as a business owner, what you'll sort of experience if you've been doing this content marketing thing for some time is that when you start new conversations with new people, they sort of already know what you stand for and who you are. So you're sort of in a different position.
A lot of people would jump on your website or on your LinkedIn page and go, well, who's this person I'm meeting? Who's this person that's sending me these messages? And why are they sending me 14 messages and I haven't replied yet? So they'll jump on, they'll have a look and they'll watch a video and then they'll say, oh, okay. And they'll get to know your personality a little bit. And they'll go, okay, actually, do you know what? I'd like to have a chat with that person. Or, absolutely not. I'm not speaking to them. They speak too much, you know.
Yeah.
But can also be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But you're right. It gives people gives them a closer connection with you, other than reading your bio.
Yeah, and that's what content marketing will do for your business. Like, it's a exponential growth in terms of you get more followers, more people see your content, more people get on your email list, all that stuff. So eventually, people will start contacting you, like in a big way, bigger way.
The big question we're always trying to answer though, but what's my return on my investment here, guys? You know, and you're going, oh Jesus, you know, and you guys ask me, you know, can you measure the return on all these videos and podcasts and all the expense that you're paying for, you know, having you guys in the room?
But I mean, in my opinion, that's an easy fix to that. It's just because when you're working B2B like we are, and the new clients you get, like the figures in revenue are huge. Yeah. Like it might be, let's say, 10 million. Yeah. And then you just go back and see what
Danish krona or euro?
Just Danish krona.
Danish krona. Let's go here.
Yeah, and then you go back and see how much have I used on content marketing, for instance. Yeah. And then if it's a big plus, then keep doing it, and then eventually it will just get bigger.
But it's a long game. That's the thing about it. See, it's a long game. So if you're looking and thinking about getting into it, and you want to go, okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give it a hard 3 months, and then, you know, if I don't see a return on after 3 months, then we're out. And I'm going, well, you need to be giving yourself 10 years, it's not 3 months,
No, it's an ongoing process. But I always challenge people by saying, who would you rather buy from? Mm-hmm. The guy you, or when you trust, you feel like you know, and you can really, you like this person, or would you rather buy from the person you don't know?
From, a robot, I guess. Yeah. You're buying from
someone who just called you to get a meeting.
Yeah. But so really content marketing, it's hard to measure, but term. It's a long. But suddenly when you get that call and you're like, where the hell did that call come from? Yeah. Was that just a huge future client contacting us? Yeah. You know your branding is working. Yeah.
You mentioned a good example actually, because you told me that someone reached out to you.
I was lying. I was just trying to make it feel good.
But it was something about some data center projects.
Yeah.
Some global data center projects.
Yeah.
And it was a guy who reached out to you.
Yeah.
And another guy had reached out to him. Yeah. Just to ask him, do you know anyone who works in a specific way about cost managing, whatever. Yeah. And then the guy was like, I've seen Ross's Cosmos' videos.
Yeah.
But he didn't know you.
No,
he didn't know you. No. He just reached out to you.
Yeah.
So that's like people watching your content, getting to know you, will become your ambassadors in a way.
We've had it a few times around sustainability and carbon, and that the conversations we're having on the podcast with the likes of Archie and Roger and Simone, and talking about that, the management of carbon. And we've had clients reach out to us, prospective, and going, look, can you guys come and speak to us about this? We really don't know the direction we're going on. We can, yeah, sure, no bother. And you go in with no kind of challenges. You just go to speak to people, just to hear what their challenge is, to see, have you got this something that can solve that problem for them? Yeah. And generally we do. Sometimes we come up and we say, that's not our gig, but what I would advise you to do is go to A, B, and C. But I think that the content aspect of it allows people to get to know you a little better before you enter the room. And sometimes actually they can see from the content that you're creating that actually you can solve their problem because you're the only person speaking about the challenge. Yeah. Which is why that case study aspect and talking about the problems and the solutions you put in place to try and solve the problems is key to link selling later and finding new clients.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying companies shouldn't do outreach, but if you want future clients to just reach out to you directly, branding and content marketing is the way to go.
Yeah, and so as we talked about the big corporates earlier, like they have big brands, people will automatically think of them because they know them. Traditionally and historically, they know them because the big corporates are usually in the newspaper, in the media, even for bad or for good, they're there and people can relate to them. So you can ask anybody on the street, who's the biggest main contractor in Denmark, and someone that is unrelated to construction will probably pick someone in the top 3 or 5. Who are the biggest architecture firm in the country? Again, someone that's not related to construction will probably pick someone in the top 5 because of their brand reach and how large they are. The SMEs have a different challenge, and this is why I think that the content marketing is super keen for them.
Yeah, because I would also argue that if you have a feeling that you know someone a bit personal and what they stand for, and it might be a smaller company, you would probably maybe just ask them questions. What do you think about this? We have this challenge, because you seem to be a person that wants to share anyway. So maybe we can start.
I'm sure we talk about it the whole time on LinkedIn and podcasts and even on conferences and presentations. Going, if you're having a challenge, write to me. Just write to me. Yeah. If I can answer you, I will absolutely do my best. If I can't, I'll put you onto someone that could possibly answer your question.
And that is why the content marketing strategy is a long-term thing, because what you want to do is you want to spread your message on what you do in a receiver-orientated way. Yeah. But the key thing is that it's a waiting game. Yeah. You want people to know who you are, and then eventually when they got, let's say, a construction project 2 or 3 years down the road, they would be like, I got to call these guys because I've been seeing the videos or the podcast for the last 3 years. Yeah. And then that's why it's exponential growth that you'll see.
But Laurits, we have 7 minutes till our lunch is here. So I want to challenge you to do an entire content marketing strategy in 7 minutes for
In 7
people
minutes.
listening. So how do you get started with content marketing?
In specifically to the construction industry, we should probably start with the low-hanging fruit, which would be just, as I mentioned before, this way of communicating, just turning it around. What will people get out of this So Me post? Normally, I would be like, we just won this new project, this new public project in central London or whatever.
Wherever,
Yeah. How did you do that?
Yeah.
Like, what did it take to do that? What would be your focus on this project? Like, just the way you communicate.
Yeah.
That's where I'd start with everything. That's the strategy.
That's the strategy. No, but I'm reflecting back to how we got in. I'm reflecting back to how we got into this and why we're sitting in this room talking. And when we first did the video content for the RICS event in Copenhagen, the quantity surveying event in Copenhagen back in 2019, it was a case of, okay, we'll have the event, we'll attract very interesting people to it, and we had a good group. I think it was 40 at the time or something around that number we had of QSs in the industry and people interested in cost, which was great. But how do we capture the moment? How do we capture, and then how do we use that moment in many other different scenarios in the future? So what do we do with the moment of sitting around, like what we're doing here, sitting around chatting? We're recording it for voice and sound, wonderful. The video content, and then what do we do with it? We can just upload it to Spotify. Yeah, but then we can also cut it. We can make charts out of it. We can have key messaging coming out of it. We can have it on multiple channels. So if you're looking at a conference you're at, or if you're looking at, it could even be an internal network event that you're having in your business.
Set up a camera, do some interviews.
Set up a camera, do some interviews, and suddenly you're beginning to have this brand awareness and this content creation, and then you can do multiple things with that. But if you have that in mind, next time you're doing something and it could be as simply as a project kickoff, right? So you talked about the project, you won the project, you're having the project kickoff with your team. Get someone in there, get a camera in there, do some interviews. So, well, what's the biggest risk for you in this project? What do you look like? And then measure that as you go through the project life cycle, you know? There's huge opportunity in that. I think we're going to do that one. I like that idea, actually. We're going to bring
See
that
if we
in.
can get people on board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But just use your content again. A blog post. If you're just doing, you're a good writer. You like writing. Write a blog post. But in that blog post, there's maybe 5 or 10 LinkedIn posts.
Yeah. And it's multifaceted. So, out of the single piece of work you get, you have multiple outputs and multiple opportunities, and they grow. Like I don't know how many times we're reusing our old content and for blog posts now and rewriting, and then you have suddenly technology comes in and AI is there, and you go, I wonder what we can do with this, and you guys just, okay, let's load all this and see what the output is, and can we use that, and suddenly you have this huge multifaceted.
And to the question that I get the most when talking to people about content marketing is, what are we going to talk about? Just talk about how you will solve the obstacles, the challenges, the problems in the industry.
Talk about your journey.
Yeah.
How did you get here? Why are we sitting here? That you can fill, if you're 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, 1 year in the industry, you can fill your 30, 40, 50 minutes talking about your journey,
And always be like, what's the value in listening, reading or watching this for the audience, whoever your audience is. There's a good rule where you say, like, good content marketing, if you share something on social media, it should either be surprising for people, so they'd be like, oh, that's interesting, or it should be of some kind of value, you learn something, or it should just be fun.
Yeah. Or all three at the same time.
Oh,
wow, I'm learning something. That was fun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's
the best concept.
Not in that order. Not in that order.
But it's a good rule. Because it can be difficult to just say you have to make receiver-oriented communication. But how exactly do you do that? And then if you put it into this classic model, know, like, trust model. Yeah. At the top you have the know part. People just need to know who you are. Yeah. And that could just be a blooper video, for instance, just something fun. Yeah. So people see, oh, there's something going on here. There's this new brand, for instance. And then you go down to like, and that's where you get to share what you stand for, what you do, in like by following those three rules in a value way for the audience, and then eventually trust. Yeah. That's where they go, I have a construction project. Yeah. Now 2 years down the road. Yeah. And I trust these people because I've heard what they do. Yeah. and I think they might be like
it's
they,
worth
they
and
can help
it's worth the conversation.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
and it's that initial conversation piece that's the most critical
Yeah.
in reality, because that connection is built out of the effort you've been doing indirectly over the last number of months and years.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's where it's going to change in the industry. It's not going to be local now, because teams aren't local anymore. They're international or national. You might not be working in the same office anymore, or next door, down the road from that client, you can just hop and grab a coffee with, or a beer, or play golf. That's all. That dynamic is changing.
Why it will, like that's the title of this podcast, is also how content marketing will change the construction industry.
Yeah.
And that's because this way of doing things starts conversations. It means that you guys need to collaborate in a way. And that will also change the industry and how you work, and how all the small agile companies who are doing things in a new way will start to collaborate.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if it's the last thing, but one more thing too. You mentioned fun. I think an underestimated
fun, by the way.
no an underestimated part of branding and marketing is humor. I'm not saying that we should do an entire episode of dad jokes. That would be fun.
Yeah.
But
we
just
should do that.
yeah. But try to be authentic fun. Give people a smile on their face. They will much easier remember you, much easier relate to you, much easier. You will much easier earn that trust because you gave them a smile on their face.
That's a difficult piece,
Yeah.
And it's an issue for Ross specifically, because we did a lot of bloopers the first 2 years.
Yeah.
But now he's so good that there are several bloopers now.
There's no fun anymore,
Do you remember when we made the intro for the podcast? How many times we did that?
Did we do a blooper on that, did we? Because that took us about 25 minutes.
That was entire
to figure
podcast
all
episode.
to figure that
I'll
out.
go home and do that right away.
Yeah. I only work well when it's off the cuff.
Off the cuff,
If it's scripted and under pressure, then no.
Just read this, Rush.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So
that's difficult.
all right.
Oh my God, I'm under pressure.
Yeah. But is that it?
It's time to meet
Our lunch.
our lunch.
Yeah.
So
We've been having lunch, by the way. We were recording for the last 2 days, and we've been having lunch. And I'm vegetarian. And the first day, fish came, and I went, okay, fair enough. I took the fish out and ate everything else. And then the guy, Laurits, understood that I'm vegetarian, and then ordered a vegetarian the next day. Next day came in, and it was fish. I went, okay, no, it's supposed to be tofu. But I said, but
It said tofu on the receipt, by the way.
I'm telling you right now, this is fish. So today I'm hoping for chicken.
yeah.
So, with a bit of luck, it'll be chicken, beef, anything with fish,
We'll see.
We'll see. Nice one, lads.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much for listening. There's a LinkedIn link below in the show notes. We would love to connect with you.
We hope you enjoyed it and have you with us in the next one. Thank you very much.